no one should be able to take for granted that they can just declare themselves a candidate and automatically receive support. You have to earn it.
Well, you didn't earn your candidacy. You didn't primary your way through this. Like, you didn't even earn your spot as vice president. People are appointed vice president. She's gotten her way into this presidential election because she's been handpicked. I'm sure she has great relationships with the Democratic Party because she was handpicked as Biden's VP, and then they handpicked her again to become president after Biden steps down. There's no primary, there's no competition. So what is she talking about? Okay, who saw this Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes? Let's just take a look at this.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's
It's already
start
out of
with
control.
October 7. 1,200 people were massacred.
Let's start with October 7th. Well, how about we start with the Balfour Declaration, where the West announced support for a national home for Jewish people in Palestine. You should probably start there first. I don't know. I could be wrong, though.
We supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid.
Sure do.
And yet, Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon.
And he
went
did.
in anyway. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The work that
Great
we
question.
do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear.
Every answer to the question is so disgustingly political. It's like a non-answer. Instead of directly answering it, it's like this whole political word vomit spiel. He asked her very directly, you guys said not to do this, Netanyahu did that. You guys said not to go in Lebanon, he went into Lebanon. Do you not have sway over Netanyahu? Your current administration, Biden-Harris administration, do you guys not have sway over Netanyahu? And she goes, oh, well, the situation said, diplomatically and the work we do to attempt progress overseas. Shut the up, man.
Our principles.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We are not
Right.
going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Do we have
She didn't really say anything. We're going to continue progress and we're going to continue to pursue diplomatic solutions. She didn't answer the question. In short, no, Netanyahu can do anything he wants to because either we support him or we can't control him, nor do we want to.
a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
I've actually never understood that alliance. You know, and I'm not one of these YouTubers who are going to come and talk about, oh, the Jews did this and that. I just don't understand what's so important. Our politicians say this so much. The American people, the Israel people share a unique bond. And maybe someone in the comments, I'm really not saying this in jest. I'm saying this honestly. What is so special about Americans and Israeli people's connection that our politicians on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, talk about so much? Someone educate me, please, because I'm seriously asking.
While the war in the Middle East has dominated recent headlines, it's the economy that most concerns American voters this
right.
election year, as always. There are lots of signs.
I love how he just starts talking over her. Like what she's saying is not even important. It's just more word salad. So he's like, yeah, anyways.
The American economy is doing very well. Better than most countries, I think. But the American people don't seem to be feeling it. Groceries are 25%
Everything is
higher,
up. Wages
and
are down.
People are blaming you and Joe Biden for that. Are they wrong?
We now have historic low unemployment in America among all groups of people. We now have...
Well, that is right. Unemployment is low. That's like the one saving grace. Now, are people underemployed? Like, you know, what is the turnover rate? I don't know those specifics, but she is right. The unemployment is low, which is a good thing.
An economy that is thriving by all macroeconomic measures. And to your point, prices are still too high. And I know that, and we need to deal with it, which is why part of my plan, you mentioned groceries. Part of my plan is what we must do to bring
Price
down the price
gouging
of
on
groceries.
groceries. Okay.
Harris says she'll press Congress to pass a federal ban on price gouging for food and groceries.
He's like, I love how they just keep putting his voice over hers. Like the way she's explains it is just so mind-numbingly boring and politically legalese that he's like, let me just say what she's trying to say for our viewers.
But details are yet to be defined.
Yet to be
You
defined. It's
want to
crazy.
expand the child tax credit.
Yes, I do.
You want to give tax breaks to first-time home buyers.
Yes.
And people starting small businesses.
Correct.
But it is estimated by the Nonpartisan Committee for Responsible Federal Budget that your economic plan would add $3 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade.
So what is the federal deficit right now? Hundreds, millions, billions, trillions. So it's 35 trillion right now, according to this website. So she's going to add like 9% to the national debt. I mean, off of one plan. I mean, that's, I don't know. I'm no economist, but that does seem like quite a lot.
How are you going to pay for that?
Okay, so the other economists that have reviewed my plan versus my opponent and determined that my economic plan would strengthen America's economy, his would weaken it.
But
My plan,
how?
Bill, if you don't mind, my plan is
Yeah,
about
let her finish, let her
saying
finish.
that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
I just don't understand, like, us, me and you watching, you may not understand exactly what's wrong with the economy, but we can explain to you the major pinpoints that pretty much every American feels. Prices of things are too high. Gas, well, right now it's low. It always lowers around election time. Even in California, it's under $4 in a lot of places. Gas, groceries, cars, homes, prices of everything are too high, and our wages are not going up proportionally. How does investing in small business, this is like a tone-deaf response by Kamala Harris, and I would love to vote for her. I'm an undecided voter, so it's not like I'm a Trumper or anything. And my voting history is actually Democrat. Like, I voted Democrat most of the times. How is investing in small business? This is the thing she says in every interview. I'm going to invest in small businesses as a response to what she's going to do to improve the economy. Someone smarter than me in the comments. How is investing in small businesses going to fix the issues that I just explained? Wages being too low, prices of homes, cars, groceries, everything being too high. How is investing in small businesses directly addressing what we're feeling as Americans right now? Sure, okay, more small businesses means more employed people at those businesses, presumably more wealth based on who owns those businesses. Small businesses, they gain wealth, more services. Someone smarter than me in the comments, let me know.
Pardon me, Madam Vice President. The question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest...
What? She was, shout out to this interviewer too, man. He should interview everyone like this. I mean, don't just grill Kamala like this. Grill Trump like this too. Be very stoic, to the point, and ask the hard questions.
How are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make...
With the beatbox is rocking.
sure
She
that the
beatboxing.
richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that...
So Kamala, if you were going to, no one believes this, right? And this is the thing I say about Kamala Harris. I would love to vote for her. I would love for Democrats to give me a reason to come back and vote for them this election. For Kamala specifically, I just don't believe anything she says. I think she is doing this. She's running for this job as president for the power, for the prestige that comes along with it, to impress people, her peers, her friends, her family. I think it's more like a vanity thing for her. I don't believe anything she says. So for her to go and say, we're going to start, how are we going to pay for this plan that I have that's going to add $3 trillion to the national debt? Well, I'm going to make the billionaires pay for it and pay their fair share of taxes. You've been in office for 4 years. Joe Biden he seems pretty mentally not there all the way. Her as vice president, she's probably doing a lot more work than a vice president would normally need to do because Joe Biden is not all the way mentally there. Is that a fair assumption? Sure. Why haven't you done these things right now? See, when Bernie Sanders goes and he says, I'm going to tax the billionaires and make them pay, I believe it. He's been saying that his entire political career. And rarely has he ever done anything to the contrary. Kamala Harris, I think she's just saying anything. I think she's saying what she thinks people want to hear.
Teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're
Why haven't you done it?
The real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
Facts.
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses. Their constituents are middle-class, hardworking folk.
And Congress has shown no...
And their constituents in Congress are also these huge for-profit corporations and billionaires who you claim you're going to start making them pay their fair shares. Those are also their constituents in Congress. Those are their biggest donors. I mean, just keep it all the way 100%.
Kamala Harris has been in government for decades. She was first elected San Francisco
Okay, she was a looker back in the day. She was a looker. Okay.
District Attorney in 2003, then California Attorney General. She went on to the U.S. Senate and now Vice President.
A quarter of registered voters still say they don't know you. They don't know what makes you tick. And why do you think that is? What's the disconnect?
I think it's because a lot of people feel like me. She's just saying anything. This is like listening to a tried and true politician. Like they are saying anything and it's not believable. You know, they got the flowery language. They flip flop on their views. You don't know what they believe. I think that's why a lot of people feel like this.
It's an election bill. And I take it seriously that I have to earn everyone's vote. This is an election for President of the United States. No one should be able to take for granted that they can just declare themselves a candidate and automatically receive support. You have to earn it.
Well, you didn't earn your candidacy. You didn't primary your way through this. Like, you didn't even earn your spot as vice president. People are appointed vice president. She's gotten her way into office, and when I mean office, in this presidential election, because she's been handpicked. I'm sure she has great relationships with the Democratic Party because she was handpicked as Biden's VP, and then they handpicked her again to become president after Biden steps down. There's no primary, there's no competition. So what is she talking about? You didn't earn anything.
Candidate and automatically receive support. You have to earn it. And that's what I intend to do.
Let me tell you what your critics and the columnists say.
Okay.
They say that the reason so many voters don't know you is that you have changed your position on so many
Right,
things.
thank
You were
you.
against fracking.
Now you're for it.
You supported looser immigration policies. Now you're tightening
Salute
them
this
up.
interviewer.
You were for Medicare for all. Now you're not.
Mm.
So many that people don't truly know what you believe or what you stand for. And I know you've heard that.
In the
It's
last
facts.
4 years, I have been Vice President of the United States.
Now watch her not address this at all. Watch the political language. Well, the situation said, I think we were working together as a country to achieve unity, and I plan to work with that.
I have been
What?
traveling our country, and I have been listening to folks and seeking what is possible in terms of common ground. I believe in building consensus.
What are you talking
We are a
about?
diverse people, geographically.
And this interview is edited. You can see. I personally, I think no political interview, especially for president, none of these should be edited. Everything should be raw footage. Why are we editing interviews for the president of the United States general election?
believe in building consensus.
Look at the edit.
We are a diverse people, geographically, regionally, in terms of where we are in our backgrounds. And what the American people do want is that
What is she
we have
talking about?
leaders who can build consensus, where we can figure out compromise and understand it's not a bad thing as long as you don't compromise your values.
So I think the answer to her question, Cliff Notes, And I think that was a section where she just rambled and rambled on and on. That's why they cut it a little bit. She's saying, yeah, I flip-flopped on fracking and Medicare for all and immigration. I flip-flopped on these things so I could build consensus with other politicians to get other bills passed. I think that's what she tried to say.
To find common sense solutions. And that has been my approach.
But one issue that has proven impervious to compromise is immigration. Over the past 4 years, the Biden-Harris approach has been inconsistent, and Republicans are convinced
Just letting people in is insane. Like, bruh,
is immigration. Over the past 4 years,
like, you might as well let dude go home. Like, you might as well just give him the day off. If all he's just doing there is just, watching people go through, you might as well just let bro get the day off.
the Biden-Harris approach has been inconsistent, and Republicans are convinced immigration is the vice president's Achilles heel.
You recently visited the southern border and embraced President Biden's recent crackdown on asylum seekers. And that crackdown produced an almost immediate and dramatic decrease in the number of border crossings. If that's the right answer now, why didn't your administration take those steps in 2021?
Great question.
The first bill we proposed to Congress was to fix our broken immigration system,
Okay.
knowing that if you want to actually fix it, we need Congress to act. It was not taken up. Fast forward to a moment when a bipartisan group of members of the United States Senate, including one of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, got together, came up with a border security bill. Well, guess what happened? Donald Trump got word that this bill was afoot and could be passed, and he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem, so he told his buddies in Congress, kill the bill, don't let it move forward.
I actually kind of do believe her on this point, because this is like one of the first questions that she's answered directly. If you're currently in office, even if all this is true, you can't blame the dude who was in office 4 or 5 years ago of what's happening right now. Like, it's just not a good look.
I've been covering the border for years.
Fact check
And
it.
so I know this is not a problem that started
With
with
Trump.
your administration.
Correct.
Yeah, all right.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies
Great question. He got some great questions. Salute this man and give him a raise.
as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay?
But the numbers did.
Yeah, it increased. So yes, it's about fixing, not promoting a problem. Sure, but he's saying the numbers increased. Was that a mistake? The non-answer is an answer itself. Yes, it was a mistake. I don't want to admit it because I don't want to admit that I make mistakes while I'm in office. That's the actual answer she wants to give.
Quadruple.
And the numbers
under your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
So you allowed a whole bunch. Like, okay, so you allowed quadrupled, the numbers quadrupled, and then since that quadrupled, you then cut that in half. Hey, genius, there's still way more people coming in. Remember, when you got in, the numbers quadrupled. From the quadruple, you cut it in half. There's still at least a factor of times 2 that you're responsible for.
Should you
We have
done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half, but
Now
we
she's talking about fentanyl.
need Congress to be able to act to actually fix the problem.
That wasn't that
You
question,
have
but yeah, we
accused
got to move on.
Donald Trump.
Okay, so that was Kamala on 60 Minutes. Again, I would like to vote for her. I have no like my voting history. I voted for many Democrats before. I just don't believe anything she says. I don't think she's in this for the right reasons. I don't think a lot of politicians are in it for the right reasons. I'm still an undecided voter. I know people watch my channel and be like, anytime you are against Biden or against Harris, the response is, you're a Trumper. I've never voted for Trump, and I don't plan to. I don't even think I could be swayed into voting for Trump. Trump has opinions on things that are hard deal breakers for me. So I just could not vote for him. The election is next month, but I don't see myself voting for Trump. A couple months ago, I said I could be swayed into voting for Kamala. It just depends on what she says. I said I would never vote for Joe Biden. But when Kamala took the stage, I said, I could be swayed into voting for her, but she has to convince me. And so far, she hasn't convinced me. I think she's more so turned me off. She's turned me away from considering voting for her, like slightly. And I'm still not at the point where I'll go into the, voting booth and cast my ballot for Kamala Harris. Now, I will vote on everything else on the ballot, our propositions, states, California issues. And I think there's some local stuff on the ballot too, mayor and things like that. But as far as that presidential box, I might end up doing the same thing that I've always done, or the same thing that I've done the past 2 elections, write in Bernie Sanders' name, because that's who should have actually been the Democratic nominee for president in 2016. They just keep throwing out, they being the Democrats, they keep throwing out these horrible candidates. Hillary Clinton, who is super unpopular, Joe Biden, who has a huge unapproval rate, Kamala Harris, who nobody really likes like that. Like, why are you throwing out these lowball candidates who people don't like and have low ratings against Trump, who Trump should be easy to beat? Like, this is easy work. Trump is easy work. Like, he's super divisive and he's super on the fringe. It should be super easy to beat this guy, but the Democrats keep throwing out the worst possible candidates. Some of the worst Democratic nominees for president since 2016 that we've ever had. As long as I've been alive, for sure. So just to expect me to just keep voting for this, it's just not happening. We'll see what she does in these last 30 days. Maybe she'll say something that I'm like, okay, I have to vote for her. Maybe she'll say something about the student loans. We're going to wipe those out. Maybe she'll come and she'll be like, she comes with a real plan for the economy, or she does something. She's currently in office. Maybe she'll do something the next 30 days where it helps with wages or something. Again, I'm open. I know people are going to think I'm not open. I'm open. I have to be convinced, bro. I'm not like a lot of people where I'm just going to vote for her because she's woman, vote for her because she's black, vote for her because she's Democrat. That's just not what I'm doing.